I can.
Cool.
Success.
Next up, we have status updates. Anything from your side? Oh, yeah.
I have not been able to focus on any learning stuff. I do have a pretty high priority item for myself in regards to the contributors guide, adding that to community. I started working on some of that, but nothing published yet.
Oh, yeah, same for me. I don't think I had time last week for any learning stuff. Um, but yeah, I have one maybe agenda item around like I don't know if it will fall under learning or not, but I'll put that in there. And anything from you, Natalie?
I've done nothing this week.
That's a very important statement. I'm gonna start saying that. Thank you.
Yeah. On the learning side.
We also have Halil. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Hi. I saw you submitted a couple of pull requests to a docs repository. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And also thank you for updating Katakoda. You are one of our GSOC mentees, right? Or am I incorrect?
Research ment, yeah.
Okay. Cool. But yeah, thank you for those pull requests. The next item on the agenda is user research. Any updates?
I had an action item to contact the CNCF and ask them for a little bit more detail on, what procedures we should have in place to sort of safeguard data if we're reaching out to people and asking them, about their use of Buildpacks, and we put that somewhere, like we want to be following all the best practices. Unfortunately, I was unable to reset my password for the service desk. I think I actually just don't even have access. So I'm kind of stuck in that administrative loop, but trying to get that done.
Cool. And next up, we have stale issues and PRs. This is a new section we've started to do. We tried it out last time. And we will let's try it a couple more times to see if it's working out well or not before we reevaluate. Let me just share my screen. Okay.
Is it bad that there are 69 open issues total and all of them are stale? Is that true?
So the definition of stale in this case is anything that has not been updated in the last week. Javier and I have been, like at least the last time, we decided to do 5 issues at a time, sorted from the least recently updated section. So I should update that filter, by the way. But we were trying to tackle things like in going through the backlog. I think last time we did 5 issues. This time we'll also try to do 5 issues, and hopefully we'll converge at some point. But yeah, the first one is provide better specification for package toml. Seems to be missing some details. State of dependencies. I also saw actually like a Stack Overflow question come in where someone confused the package toml for the Buildpacks toml, and they didn't know like the pack flag for config just says config, unless you're like seeing the examples which explicitly say config refers to package terminal. It's sort of hard to figure out which config you're talking about. I think that may be related, but is there anything we can do about this issue, or should?
I mean, it looks pretty well defined. I am curious if we could just add a good first issue and hopefully we get some nice patrons.
Any other action items, or is that it?
I was gonna look at the website. Do we not have any documentation on package terminal?
I believe we have some of it. So like there is this,
Reference for it, right?
yeah, that's it. But like as Ryan says, I think you have no idea what the URI is supposed to look like. I know there are like some specific formats for Docker images versus others. I think that's probably the only thing he wanted there. Oh wow, I didn't know this. I don't know if what's the status of this. Should I be asking on the platform maintainers about this? Is this?
Yeah, we got rid of the image key. That's why it's no longer in the doc. But yeah, okay. That makes sense. So I think a good first issue for this, and then maybe a call out to say we are still missing what the URA, possible URIs are. I could add that comment if you want. Well,
Okay.
we could.
I'll just add that for a reminder from myself. Okay, next up we have document buildback from builder. I remember like with the pre and post buildbacks, would we still need this?
No, I think this is, if I remember correctly, the RFC specifically calls out that this should be deprecated and removed.
Okay.
Do you have a reference to the pre and post issue? Maybe
I
just
can add it.
based
Okay. Document build.toml.
I don't even know what this is.
Yeah, I have no idea either.
What's it built on?
I think this is like the unmet dependencies and build bomb,
Oh
I
yes.
believe.
Yeah. Yep.
This could be a good first issue, I think.
We should probably add some references to what there is. Okay. Cool. I think it seems pretty complete. First issue. Okay. Document buildback plan. I know we started on this pull request for the detect API. I think we touched upon the build plan there for a bit. Is that still valid given that detect pull request?
Is that part of the life cycles documentation?
Well, Buildpack authors do have to interact with it because the Buildpack plan is what I believe they write to. And the build plan is the one they read from during the build phase. Or I'm confusing the two terms, but I think it adds like it at least has documentation for the build plan, which is the input during the build step. But
Yeah,
I
but
don't
it doesn't how to interact with it from a build pack author's perspective, right? And that's what
yeah.
is desired.
I mean,
There's also, sorry, there's like a separate, I dislike this organization, but there's a separate description of the build plan in the reference spec Buildpack API, which I'm not sure. David, I know David himself added this, so maybe he did it after creating this issue. That kind of describes the TOML and like why you would use it this way. I put a link in the chat. See when this was edited.
So the second bullet point then is done, right? Adding it to the Buildpack API reference.
Yeah.
What about the first one?
I think we do explain it as a part of the tutorial, or at least we touch upon it because like during the Ruby buildback, they do have to use it to get, I believe, the Ruby version and just the fact that Ruby is required. So there is this version of it, which is explained in the Buildback authors tutorial. We don't explain the or provides or requires part of it.
Yeah, so it seems like there could be some improvements, but the overall gist of the issue is done, right? Yeah. I'm okay with closing it. That statement.
Okay, and I think the last one is documentation of all of the configuration files, which is like I think it's like a meta issue for some of the issues we went through. So I guess we can just come back to it once we solve the other ones.
Agreed.
Cool. And we have stale PRs. We just have one stale PR, I believe, which
Is that blocked right now? Yeah, it's blocked.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's it. Next up, unlabeled issues. And we don't have anything, so that's good.
Did the Buildpack authors RFC go through for the new subteam?
It's in FCP and it closes tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm just curious. It just came to mind when we were looking at some of the Buildpack author-specific documentation. And I was thinking that we'd probably want to update the label to Buildpack authors team. But we could do that later. Actually, I could take it as an action item. Got it. All right. What's next?
There's this multiple personas example. Let me share my screen. So this is the first time I've seen something like this, but I found it interesting. That's why I thought I'd share. But like we've often like talked about the landing page for Buildpacks being like too abstract and not appealing to like the right audiences. So this particular startup decided to split their landing page into two, and like they have an executive version which uses more marketing terms on why, like why should um, business owners use their project, and then they have a more techie version for like why should engineers be interested in it. And like it was just like a show and tell, but I wonder if we could do something like this given that we target so many different personas, like saying that hey, if you're an app developer you get no config builds, if you're an operator you get control over your container images, and so on and so forth. Or maybe we can literally split it into a similar set of personas, which is like a more technical one and a more executive one for like people who want I guess um, like things like these. I don't know if it makes sense for Buildpacks though. uh, and for the tech one, it uses more tech friendly terms, or like things people would be interested in. But yeah, that's all I had to say about this.
So when you brought that up, what came to my mind was like, I thought we were talking about like the existing personas that we already acknowledge, right? So like the app developer, the build pack author, the operator, right? And maybe even integrations. I don't know, I feel like iffy on that one. But for sure, like I think if I'm thinking out loud, right, it's the app developer would probably be the primary persona that it defaults to. I believe in the past we've talked about like it would be nice if there was like a copy and paste option, right? Where like, you know how a lot of tech websites have a download or run this command, right? So we could have a run this command, but then you just basically get to select what builder you want to use to auto generate that command. Like I thought that'd be nice. And that's like very app developer focused. And then there's a tab, right? A little switch somewhere where you could switch over to a build pack author marketing landing page. And then that could talk about more or less the value of the power as a build pack author that you have, and maybe about some of the inner workings. And then lastly, the operator, right? Like and then on that one, we could focus on all the day two operations and maybe the separation of concerns, like let your developers do whatever they want, and then you have all this like added value on your side. I could definitely envision something like that. It is, I guess, not normal, right? Like this is the first site that has done this. And so I wonder how discoverable it would be. So I think that would be probably one of, like, from a UX perspective, one of my initial concerns. It's like, would people even know that this thing exists, right? Versus all the work that we might need to put into making 3 different landing pages, essentially. And you're muted, Sam, if you're talking.
And I think someone new to the Buildpacks project may not even know what an operator is or what their responsibilities are or what a Buildpack author is. So you'll also need to find terms that people who fit that persona would relate to. I don't know, maybe like a language owner or a whatever. But it was just interesting. That's why I thought that I don't know if we want any action items out of this.
I mean, I like it. I think it requires a little bit of design skill, maybe, right? And I know, I don't know, Sam, if it was you or Natalie, I remember somebody brought up like this idea of like going through a workflow, like where you would, like, it would ask you basic questions, right? Like, do you care about, you know, this? And then you like go into this like little workflow of things. And so then, you know, going back to answering that like persona thing, is maybe they don't know what an app developer versus build pack author versus operator is, but maybe you could just ask them questions, right? Or formulate them in a way of a question, right? It's that might be an approach to guide them into the proper landing page for them.
Oh my God, we could use machine learning to tailor the content exactly to their needs.
Oh, I think we have a machine learning expert somewhere in this project. Yeah.
Which
Yeah, I wonder, like, if we wanted to toy around with the idea, from my perspective, it would be like maybe pinging a quote unquote designer, right? Like someone with a UX skills and be like, hey, we have this crazy idea. Do you think it's, you know, reasonable? And if so, can you help us do it? The only person I could think of would be like Sam Peinado, the other Sam. But I know he's been pretty occupied recently. But maybe I could still ping him. Maybe I could look for some resources.
there's
No action items, but just in case, I might, if I run into people, I'll bring it up.
there's also this like program from Gnome or some project which is like OpenReachy, which is like Google Summer of Code but for designers. Like
What is it called?
OpenReachy.
I think the CNCF works with that one too, right?
It's OpenReachy, right? I don't remember. It's something like that. What's it called?
Yeah, but
But there's definitely a program for things like this, which is like more UX focused or like research focused, and maybe we can figure out if like you want to put a proposal there if CNCF is already a part of it.
yeah. Yeah, that's definitely a good way to go about it too. Interesting. Okay, you know what? Yeah, I'll take that as an action item, just to see if we can get some more design UX help. What mentorship programs that might be available for us to leverage.
Oh, it's called Outreachy, not OpenReachy.
Oh,
It is here.
awesome.
And I think this program is pretty open. So like there's no set of skills that you need to have. So like Google Docs, whatever thing is for like documentation, Summer of Code is just like for code contributions. Outreachy is like any contributions to an open source project, whatever they may be. So your skill set doesn't have to be like a technical, like documentation writer or a technical code contributor. It can be anything. Um, so like it's up to the mentors to define and call for like certain set of skills.
I think, are we at time for this meeting? We are.
We are.
Did you quickly want to go about the Katacoda maintenance?
Yeah, so like we should probably create an epic to port over like some tooling to sync between the Katacoda repository and the docs one, because with Halil's pull request I realized that there's actually no great way to even test pull requests on Katacoda apart from whoever's making the pull request having to go and register their own repository onto Katacoda. It takes like a minute or so, but it's not an automated process. Maybe as a first step, we should at least put a contribution guide on the Katacoda repository and add code owners, because both of those are missing. So I can probably take that on, and I'll probably put that as a checklist on the docs PR guide as well. So like when people are submitting a pull request on the docs repository, there's a checklist item. Hey, like, are you editing one of the Katacoda tutorials? If so, either create an issue or a pull request to the Katacoda repository meanwhile while we are figuring out the automated tooling for it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I definitely want to discuss, since we're over time, we'll punt on this, but I want to discuss like more viable options. Like I was wondering if we could just embed Katacoda into the website or something else, right? Something where there's still only one place to change stuff.
Yeah, there are options. I think we may have to reach out to like the Katacoda customer support team. I believe CNCF should have some partnership with them, given like so many CNCF projects have like the enterprise version of Katacoda on their websites so that they can embed stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe also something to discuss in the leadership meeting, like if we
Yeah.
can reach out. Yeah.
We'll open for tickets and all that if need be. Awesome.
Thank you,
And
everyone. Sorry, you were saying anything?
I was going to say we can move the moving to video conference platform to working group maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
It's more generic. Awesome.
See ya.
You